it takes to get around this circuit tonight.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. We're about to do a hot lap here at Donington. As we set up for a hot lap here, come down the front straight. You're going for a straight, normal front straight here. Brake for turn 1 here. It's an increasing radius corner, so you want to get down to first gear. You want to make the corner, and it's a nice long straightaway here, flowing, kind of a right-left complex, and then you want to set up to the left here for the next set of corners. You got another long straightaway right here, third gear in that last corner. You want to set up for a flat out fifth gear entry, brake to the left, and set up for a double right-hander. You got a blind straightaway up ahead, and you want to make sure you get in the second gear for a blind uphill right-hander. Coming up to the final corner, nice short lap here. You want to look out for that second brake marker, and you want to brake nice and early to set up for a first gear chicane. And that is one full lap at Donington Park. Back to you, Boomer.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate you running that hot lap for us to show us what it's going to look like here tonight. And we've got 60 laps of scheduled distance. Going to be a lot of fun. There is a little bit of pit strategy here with the different compounds of tires that you'll have to run as well. So we'll be sure to keep an eye on that. And definitely interesting with the push-to-pass buttons as well. So you have opportunities for a little extra horsepower there. To be able to get around somebody to make a pass. And I know, Andrew, you're more well versed in obviously driving these Indy cars and using that. How much is that push to pass going to mean tonight, and what kind of strategies are involved with when you use that and how you use that?
Yeah, the push to pass is definitely something that you have to reserve. You have to save. You have to make sure you're using it at the right time because you only get 10 of them per race. So you want to save that for an opportunity maybe later in the race, especially if you're on a favorable tire compound, to make sure that you can complete a pass where you ordinarily would have to just look for some slipstream to try and get by these guys.
Yeah, so that'll be fun to keep an eye on. Obviously, a little bit different strategy than our traditional oval tracks. So it's always fun to get a chance to turn left and right with these Indy cars. And yeah, it's a blast. I mean, it is pretty impressive to see what these guys can do, obviously on an oval, but even more so sometimes to see what it takes to actually get around a road course. And I believe this is the lone road course on the schedule, so it should be an opportunity for some drivers to take advantage of that style of racing. I know some people prefer some of the larger ovals or the shorter ovals, more like the short tracks of the IndyCar world, which a little bit longer. I think 1.5 or about a mile and smaller are pretty much considered short tracks for the Indy cars. But everyone's kind of got their own set of skills, and this should play into to a couple people's skills, and we'll see how it goes tonight, Andrew.
Yeah, I think last year Bruno Miranda really kind of showed his prowess on both ovals and road courses. He seemed to have the leg up on the field on a whole bunch of different track configurations. He was good on short ovals, he was good on medium ovals, and he was good on road courses too. Almost a little bit shockingly so that some of these guys are like, man, what do I got to do to get ahead of this guy? So expect him to be up front, but I know guys like Chris Stouffer and Craig Forsyth and Jim Herrick, and these guys really do not want to see another Bruno Miranda victory here. So they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that he does not win another race on the road course, especially it being such a special racetrack for this series.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see. So far, Eric Schaus tops the leaderboard with a best lap of a 53.69, but Bruno Miranda ties it to the 100th place with also a 53.69. So definitely quite a bit of competition at the top of the leaderboard, and we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. But got a couple extra minutes here before we get started. Wanted to make sure we got that flying lap from Andrew in before the qualifying session started. And got about 5 more minutes here as drivers will take to qualifying here in just a moment for single car qualifying. Had some pretty good races so far this season. We've seen 2 different winners in Nick DeGroot and Eric Schaus. Obviously, we saw Eric Schaus at the top of the leaderboard there, but it sounds like, Andrew, you're thinking for sure Bruno Miranda probably going to be one of the favorites here tonight.
Yeah, I think Bruno Miranda had a pretty rough start to the season. He had a lot of momentum coming into the season from last season, winning a lot of races last season and kind of showing his stuff for the most part. But unfortunately, some bad luck has come his way. So I'm pretty sure tonight he wants to make sure that he puts himself right on pole position or even second or third place and try and see if he can get his way to the front and try and dominate like he's done in many races in the last couple of seasons.
So yeah, we see here the practice results coming up. Eric Schaus with that 53.69.0 to Bruno Miranda's 53.694. So definitely at the top of the charts so far. Chris Stouffer with a pretty solid lap in practice. Michael Carrillo and Craig Forsyth are the top five for practice, and everyone is taking to the track to get their laps in for single car qualifying, and we'll be ready to go in about 4 minutes here with the grid. And yeah, a little early, like we said, for the flying lap, but fun to bring something different. And Andrew, how nervous were you there behind the seat, making sure you put down a good lap to show everybody for the broadcast tonight?
Well, I got to be completely honest with you. I just loaded up this track after not racing it for many years, and I really wanted to bring something to the viewers here to show kind of an in-car view, which is a little different than what we normally have, especially on these ovals. That it's kind of a turn left and go straight and turn left kind of thing. I really wanted to kind of put the viewers in the cockpit to show what it's like for these guys that race for 40 minutes straight, 40, 50 minutes straight, and the absolute toll that it takes on your mental state and trying your best to be fast but be conservative at the same time, because you have equipment that can easily just roll off and wear on you. So uh in terms of trying to pick up my pace on this track, I really tried my best to use those couple minutes to uh, bring myself to a spot where I I could show you guys exactly what it's like. So I think I did a decent job. I could have explained the track a little bit better, but these kind of tracks, these short tracks, are very difficult to sort of get a grip on. Exactly what you're driving on. You're driving on these flowing, quick corners with these fast braking zones and everything. So these drivers are definitely going to be put to the test tonight, and we'll have to see how it goes. Tire strategy is also going to be a part of the thing.
Yeah, you mentioned the tire strategy, having to race on the softer compound and the black compound as well. Both sets have to be used within the race, within those 60 laps. So that'll bring a little bit of strategy, as we've mentioned before, to tonight's race. And yeah, should be a blast. Got about 2 minutes left before we get to the grid. And I mean, Andrew, definitely, I've obviously don't have as much IndyCar experience as you do, but just in general, an iRacing experience, like it's not the easiest thing to do, to be on the edge and running as fast of a lap as you possibly can every single week. I know, obviously, some people may say like, yes, this is just a video game, but there's still a lot of work that actually goes into driver inputs. And if you've got some of the higher strength, like direct drive force feedback wheels, there's actually a lot of power that's going through that steering wheel that's, you kind of have to battle and saw back and forth on the wheel. And it can be tiring. And it's not just, it's not just a controller video game where you actually have to, you have to be in it. And I'll be honest, when I get done with a league race, my back's usually a little bit sweaty, and I may not be winded, but my heart rate's usually a little bit higher than than what it normally is at resting.
Yeah, honestly, it's weird to say this, but the sweatier you are, the harder you worked, and you always want to work hard for any sort of victory or top position you get. Yeah, it's definitely difficult these days with some of the more technological wheel pedal configurations and everything everybody has. Some guys really put a lot of effort into making sure they have the best equipment possible and everything that they feel comfortable with to get themselves in a good position to be on top, win a race. Uh, but yeah, especially on a road course like this, you're going at least 90% every lap. If you don't go 90% every lap, you're going to be falling back through the field and possibly find yourself in a situation where you're compromised and have to dodge any sort of extra sort of move from someone behind. So yeah, these guys are definitely that they're putting in a lot of time to practice, especially coming from someone like me who just did that that quick video there to show a lap. These guys are putting in a lot more practice than that to make sure that they're tip-top shape and able to get the best finish they can.
Yeah, definitely. But we got a field of about 15, just under 15 drivers here. Looks like tonight Eric Peterson through eighth place right now have qualified. A couple other drivers might be taking a chance to still qualify as qualifying is still ongoing. But again, it'll be 60 laps here in Donington. Probably could have looked this up before the actual race, but Andrew, do you know where this track is actually based out of?
I think it's somewhere in the UK, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I believe it. I know it's I can't remember the name. It's same owners I think as like Snetterton and
Brands Hatch,
Brands
maybe.
Hatch. Yep, yeah, those same group I think that owns it, but would have been good to maybe prep that before the race. And obviously that's the nice thing about the virtual world in iRacing. You don't have to fly over to Europe to race on a track that's not located here. Obviously for us in the United States, but nice to be able to race pretty much any track in the world that iRacing can scan and use.
I think that the British tracks in particular are kind of favorites in general because they're very natural terrain. Nothing that's very kind of out of the ordinary. You get a lot of street circuits here in the U.S., especially if any of you are NASCAR fans. You're definitely checking out a lot of these tracks that are popping up here, and they're turning into more street festivals. So bringing in people and getting them used to sort of a different style of racing in general. But yeah, if you go to Britain, you have all these different tracks that are natural terrain. They're definitely a little on the older side, but very well maintained. Yeah, it looks like Donington Park is actually right in the center of the UK there, just north of Birmingham. So kind of near one of the big city centers there in the UK. I'm sure those guys that live up in the northern part of the UK attend every sort of race at Donington Park they can.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously there's so many different short tracks and road courses and different racetracks throughout the United States, and they're kind of all peppered there throughout Europe and Asia and all over the place. I mean, there's pretty much tracks all over the world. It is interesting that you mentioned the style of racetrack. Like this is there's a decent amount of elevation change to this track, and obviously there are some road courses in the U.S. that have a little bit of that, but it seems like in the U.K. you get more of that. Like obviously Brands Hatch has a decent amount of elevation changes, and there's big tracks like Silverstone being, I mean, a huge road course with a lot of high-speed corners. So it's always fun to get that variety and have that experience here on iRacing. But so it looks like we're going to do about 10 minutes of qualifying here, which makes sense for the longer laps versus oval racing. But that just means that you get to hear Andrew and I go back and forth a little bit more before the race. So yeah, I mean, we've talked about a lot already. Had some time to enjoy obviously Andrew's hot lap there, and looking forward to getting into this one in a few minutes here. I promise it's coming eventually here, but. Maybe we'll circle back to some of the strategy for the tires. You mentioned that you got to take a set of the reds, which are a softer compound, and then there's the black tires as well, the standard tire. Maybe take us through, Andrew, from your experience. What kind of a strategy are you looking to see these guys go for with that tire change that is going to be mandatory tonight?
Yeah, so some of these road course races, you definitely you want to be on the optimal tire as best you can at the front of the field. So the red tire tends to be the most optimal, tends to be the fastest, but it degrades the fastest at the same time. So you can expect probably the top at least three to be on the red tire. You might see some of these guys in the mid pack gambling on the black tire, which is less favorable as it takes some time to heat up, less grip and slower lap time. But the thing is that everybody has to run the black tire at some point. So um, some of these guys in the mid pack may just want to try and get rid of the black tire stint early. So this race is 60 laps. I can imagine, I didn't get exact fuel numbers, but I can imagine that it's probably about like 22, 23 laps per stint on a full tank. So if it's a 23 and 23, then you got to put 14 laps on the black tires. So yeah, I can see someone like a Michael Carrillo in P5, kind of risking it and going on the black tire just to get it out of the way. If he falls a couple spots, he knows that he'll be on the red tire later in the race, and he can maybe pick up some spots later on for the top 4 that are ahead of him that have to run the black tires later.
Yeah, and you mentioned there fifth for Michael Carrillo. He's going to start there, but we've got the rest of the grid on your screen now. Bruno Miranda is going to grab that pole position. Chris Stouffer is going to have to settle for the outside of row number 1. Eric Schaus is relegated to 3rd after that fast lap in practice. In the inside of row number 2, Dan Morera is going to start 4th night outside of row number 2. Michael Carrillo, we already mentioned there in the 5th position, and Jari Brupacher, one of our podium placers last week, is going to start in the 6th position in that number 49 machine. Craig Forsyth there on the inside of row number 4 with Jim Herrick to his outside. Couple teammates there for 4dayracewear.com. Then we got Matt Wagner and Eric Peterson rounding out the top 10 of the starting grid. You'll see Andrew's name there. He won't be gridding, so anybody behind him will be moved up 1 spot, but Gary Lovern will be on the outside of row number 6, and we will promote Alan Morera to the 11th position with Joseph Desiro, who will start on the shotgun of the field. Drivers are getting in their cars, and we should be racing in just a few moments here. Getting to the grid. Got about 30 seconds left for everyone to get in their cars for the grid. I know we've talked a lot of strategy already, Andrew, but do you have any final thoughts before we get onto this pace lap here?
Yep, I'm just checking the grid here. It looks like we have Dan Morera P4, the first car to start on the black tires. So as I mentioned before, you can expect him to perhaps drop back a spot or 2 for some of those guys that are starting on reds behind him, but he wants to make sure he gets off of those black tires sooner so that he can run red tires for the rest of the race and potentially pick up some spots later on as long as he has a nice clean start. So look for Morera P4. Looks like also Craig Forsyth P7's on the black tires, as well as Jim Herrick in P8.
Yeah, Matt Wagner in P9 starting there. He's going to be on the red tire as well as Alan Morera at the back of the field. So those guys are going to be looking to make some moves over the drivers that took the black tires at first. Obviously, if you have an advantage there, an opportunity to stay on the black tire, the harder compound, if you can hold off a few spots there, that would definitely be advantageous over the guys who have taken the red tires. Because obviously, you know, if you're on the red tire, you're going to be on attack mode as much as you can be. Just trying to make sure that you maintain that pace and keep moving forward.
Yeah, and as I predicted earlier on in this broadcast here, it looks like Bruno Miranda has managed to take pole position, so it's going to be very hard for anyone to unseat him, but let's see what happens if Stouffer can manage to get out there.
Yep, so the inside lane will be on the right-hand side of your screen, and the outside will be on the left of the driver's view, as we will be getting ready for the green flag to wave. The first of 60 laps are underway here at Donington Raceway Park.
Yeah, we already got some shifting and
shuffling
here. Oh, wow. Looks like Stouffer really went for it in turn 1 there. Miranda falls all the way back to, what's that, P7?
Yeah, P6 for now, down 5 spots as Chris getting into the braking zone a little heavy there, but he's going to take the lead over with those red tires. Jari Brupacher just behind him, and a little bit of off-track action there as we have a fairly decent amount of contact here off-track in the first. There's a lockup there for Jari Brupacher.
Yep, Jari locks up to turn 6 there, and looks like he's going to lose a couple spots, even to Bruno Miranda, who had that incident on lap 1. We'll have to see if he has any sort of contact there. I would imagine that if it's lap 1 and he's starting on the red tires, he's not going to want to give up that very easily. So I think he's going to stay out here.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. Look like, from our viewpoint, that something may have come off of a car, whether it was a rear or front wing, not sure. Could also be something that, we got a spin in the back here. Dan Morera coming out of the chicane there is going to get loose and sideways there, but yeah, definitely plenty of action there in that first lap as Chris Stouffer is going to have the lead well and away by about 0.8 of a second here heading into the second lap.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a symptom of black tires. Is like I mentioned before, those tires take a long time to heat up. Red tires can heat up almost instantly. You can get going within about 3 or 4 corners. Black tires, you really have to nurse them. Actually, looks like that Alan Morera is off course at the moment as well. Dan Morera gets that spot back. But yeah, the black tires, you have to realize at the start of the race on full fuel that you're starting on black tires, and if you give any sort of extra push to them as if you're driving with a lot of grip, you're going to lose the back end very easily. And Dan Marreri, unfortunately, his black tire start strategy did not work out here.
It is working, however, for the fourth place, number 99 of Craig Forsyth. He looks like he may lose the spot here into turn number 1 to the 1 of Bruno Miranda.
Ooh, a little bit of a spin, a little bit of a half spin from Forsyth there. Same sort of thing. So those black tires, as I mentioned, they're not fully heated up yet. There's no confidence in the braking as you're getting into these corners to make sure that you could stop for, sometimes you forget you're driving on the black tires and you really want to make sure you hold on to a position or something like that. And next thing you know, you lose the back end and you got to save it.
Michael Carrillo's got a pretty good start going for himself in the 40 race wear machine. He's up 3 spots. He just ran the fastest lap of the race that last time by a 54.87 to Christopher's 54.92, so a tenth of a second faster as we get some more trouble in the back of the pack. Looks like for Alan Moreira now about 20 seconds off of the lead, but we are going to stay green. There shouldn't be any yellows, maybe some local yellows if there is any action, but no full course yellows here tonight as Michael Carrillo actually backs up that fastest lap with a 54.74 that time by about a half a tenth or so faster than Christopher, so trying to run down the leaders on these fresh red tires.
Yeah, you can even see Jim Herrick on the black tires as well. He's another one of the black tire starters, and he seems to be kind of hanging maybe a few seconds behind Forsyth there, but he's doing what he can to make sure that he stays within that realm there where he can maybe pounce on red tires later as the leaders are on blacks.
We will see how it goes, but the top 4 right now are on the softer compound. Craig Forsyth in 5th on the hard compound, Jari Brupacher soft, and then a mix of the rest of the field. But we are just 4 laps underway now. 5, we're working on 5 for our leader of Christopher as he continues to lead us around here, and seems to be a little bit of a level off to Michael Carrillo behind him. 55 flat for Christopher, 55.03 for Michael Carrillo, and the rest of the field a little bit slower. Good lap actually for Matt Wagner, 55.02, so he is trying to bounce back a little bit there. He started 9th and has stayed 9th for now, but definitely going to get a little strung out here until we see maybe some of the tire changes for the guys who did take the black tires first, and it'll be interesting to see who pits when for what tires here. Is a little bit of a battle for the lead coming up here.
Actually, I'm watching the Bruno Miranda and Eric Schaus battle here. Bruno Miranda, he got hit from behind in turn 1. He should have damage, but that car does not seem to be damaged whatsoever. And in fact, he's only, 3 seconds behind Christopher right now? And
yeah, 2.6.
He's closing that gap back down. He just has to clear Eric Schaus, and he's going to be going towards those front 2.
Yeah, actually, Eric Schaus and Bruno Miranda fastest on the track that last time by, 54.82 and 86 for Eric and Bruno respectively to Christopher's 55.07. So about almost 0.3 of a second difference between them and the leaders at the moment. But definitely a good battle here, as this is probably your closest battle on track at the moment.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at some of these cars that are flirting with kind of off tracks here. They're kind of going to the left of the blue curbs. I don't know what the incident limit is. I'll have to check that. It doesn't look like there actually is an incident limit, but yeah, if you keep going off track like that, you're going to run yourself into maybe some sort of penalty where you have to slow down on track, and no one's going to want that very much. It looks like Bruno Miranda actually has a really good run here out of the final corner. Let's see if he can use that push to pass and get by.
Yeah, we actually saw Eric Peterson there going off track, but back to the leaders here as Bruno Miranda's trying to get back up through the field. Started in 1st and has been relegated to 4th at the moment for that initial contact that you saw at the beginning of the race, but trying to reel in Eric Schaus, is starting to reel in Michael Carrillo a little bit. Even times for Christopher, Eric Schaus, and Bruno Miranda that last time by, as you see there on the scoreboard. Michael Carrillo slowing down a little bit there, and the rest of the field in the 56-second bracket already. So definitely quite a bit of pace from Christopher in the lead, Eric Schaus, and Bruno Miranda in 3rd and 4th respectively.
Yeah, I'm very interested in this top 4 battles, kind of where it's at right now. You have a whole bunch of different scenarios here. You have Eric Schaus, who doesn't really run a lot of road courses. up at the front, but he finds himself battling for second place as it is. Michael Carrillo has been around. He's definitely shown some good pace up front on road courses last season. Let's see if he can actually try and pick himself back up and chase down Stouffer. But the more these two battle, the more Bruno Miranda is going to be stuck behind them, and the more that Chris Stouffer has a chance to maybe settle his tire temps down and keep a gap that he finds favorable to stay in the lead.
Yeah, and Christopher may be actually noticing that there is a battle behind him because he actually just used his first push to pass. So you'll get a couple seconds there of a little extra horsepower, and you've got that opportunity 10 times. I know you talked about that a little bit before the broadcast, Andrew, but is it? Are you going to be one that's going to be reserving those all for the end, or are you going to be like Christopher right now, trying to break that or bring that gap up to try and pull away from the field at the beginning?
Yeah, I mean it's always situational. You you want to use them where you feel like you can, but you also don't want to hold on to 9 of them with 5 laps to go. So maybe Chris is just trying to predict in the future what his race is
Michael
gonna be like.
Carrillo. Sorry to interrupt there.
Oh, that's okay.
Yes.
I think he had a little bit of a curb touch there, if I'm not mistaken.
Get back underway in 4th place, but that'll put Eric Schaus through to the 2nd position with Bruno Miranda now only 2 spots down from the starting position of 1st.
Yeah, that was a nice save by Carrillo. He looks like he just got a touch bit loose as he got back on throttle, and then the curb just kind of sent him off into the grass. So not too bad there. He lost a little bit of time, but you know he has the pace to stay up front here. So hopefully he could just cool the tires down, reset, and perhaps have a little tire advantage later on if he keeps a nice slow pace, trying to catch back up to the leader again.
Yeah, he's got a decent gap back to his teammate Craig Forsyth there, about 2.6 seconds back to Craig there in 5th. You see the blue car towards the top of your screen. Michael in the purple 4D racewear machine tonight. And yeah, settling out, stringing out just a little bit here. Chris Stouffer got about a 1.8 second lead here as we are working on lap number 10 of 60. And you see every once in a while, I think it's turn 2 or 3 there, bit of smoke from touching the grass on the outside. These guys are really taking advantage of those curbs and trying to maximize that in and out corner radius.
You could definitely see a bunch of these cars are starting to slide through these long corners a little more. Those tires are starting to go off quite a bit. So now it's just a matter of keeping the tire wear in the rears pretty close to the tire wear in the front, however you possibly can. Even if you have to sacrifice a couple of tenths of pace, it's better to keep the car pointed straight than be backwards, as you saw Michael Carrillo almost do. So looks like Bruno Miranda has definitely tried to bide his time here and save his tires as best as he possibly can. And he's going to be trying to steal the 2nd place spot soon.
Yeah, he just grabbed the push to pass there through those S's and you see them both go over the side of the curb and a little bit of dirt flying there, but Bruno using his first push to pass, it looks like he is trying to catch back up to Eric Schaus and get that spot, but they're starting to level off pretty well. Eric and Bruno are, but Chris Stouffer is actually slowing down just a little bit, a 55.56 to Eric's 55.28 and a 55.29 for Bruno. So definitely quite a bit of a good battle shaping up at the front of this pack.
Yeah, it looks like Craig Forsyth's black tires might start to sort of come into a slightly advantage now, as he kind of loses the back end there near the pit entry. But I think someone had an off course there. I couldn't tell who that was. Was that Brubacher?
It looks like it was Alan Morera there. Brubacher went wide in turn 1 there as Craig's going to get back on the inside. But yeah, as you mentioned there, Craig probably holding on the best here with these hard compound tires. Having a pretty good stint so far. And he's going to have the advantage of getting through that, that other compound and getting back to the reds faster and being able to stay there for the rest of the race. So it'll be interesting. Everybody ahead of him, if he can keep this track position, will have to use the black compound at some point. So advantage to Craig potentially, especially with some of the drivers behind him being caught on their first stint of reds and have not used the black tires yet.
Yeah, I think I almost wonder if Craig got a little spooked at some random car that appeared on his left there, because that was a very odd kind of rear lock spin there.
Yeah, we saw.
I didn't even know the car was there until he was spinning. I was like, oh, there's a car over there to the left.
Yeah, we did see on the action over here behind the scenes, I could see that Alan Morera did go off track, so it could have been at that time where he was trying to just get back on track, and might have caught him by surprise. But Alan Moreira is actually in the pits right now. Looks like he has actually a decent amount of damage, so I think that will be potentially a retirement for him, unfortunately, as we have 11 cars still rolling around the race circuit here.
Yeah, we have an interesting battle here with Craig Forsyth and Brubacher, black and red tires, and we have Jim Herrick and Matt Wagner, black and red tires, same sort of thing. These guys on the red tires are trying to get any gasp of life that they can out of these red tires to make sure that they pass some black tire driver, because they know that as soon as they get on those black tires, they're going to start to fall back. So maybe Wagner and Brubacher both have tried their best to try and conserve as much red tire as they can. They're running they're still running decently good times against the black tire, so perhaps the black tire really is kind of the curse here, and I would imagine that you're going to see Herrick, Forsyth, and anybody else that's on the black tire come in very soon.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, obviously, if you can go about 23 laps there on both the stints, it definitely shortens up the stint that you have to spend on those black tires. You see Jim Herrick going off a little bit there. We're on the nose cone, or actually on the top of the aero screen of Matt Wagner's number 6 machine here, as he tries to close the gap out of the chicane there, and trying to take advantage of those red tires, because he's got, again, the black tires in front of him and Jim Herrick, and then 2 cars ahead of him, Craig Forsyth also on his stint with the black tires, as we come down the backstretch in the final chicane here. See if Matt can make a move or not.
He's very close, but it's very difficult to make a move on any tire at this point, especially when we're this far into the stint. But I'm looking back at the Eric Schaus Bruno Miranda fight for second, and Bruno can't do anything with Eric Schaus, which is more evidence that this whole tire wear situation is really plaguing on these guys. But the other thing you have to realize, Boomer, is that this is such a short lap, and there are like 3 or 4 long straightaways, so there really is no good way to get an advantage on someone. This is definitely a track position kind of race. You have to do everything you can to try and maximize your track position to hold off the guys behind you, which is why Bruno's having such a hard time getting by Eric, which is also the reason why these guys back here with Craig and Jim are trying their best to get by, but they just can't find a spot to do it, especially if there are cars ahead that are in the draft.
Yeah, absolutely, and we see a little bit of trying to pull away still more for the leader, Chris Stouffer. He's used up 2 of his push-to-passes so far, just kind of methodically going through those as, let's see, it looks like there might have been a little bit of a moment there for Jim Herrick. It says he entered and left the pit lane twice in the span of about a quarter of a second, so we'll jump back there and see as he's still rolling there, but could have been just getting wide a little bit on the pit out. But you see coming down on the front straightaway, you see how wide they get. They are completely in the lane of the pit exit there before they turn into that right-hander in turn 1, trying to maximize that racing surface again to arc that corner as much as you can. But it'll be interesting. Once you get to pit stops, you'll have to be mindful that people are going to be coming in and out of the pits there, that there could be a car that's coming up to speed as you're trying to make your way into turn number 1.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but that's a very British turn 1, is kind of the same thing. A lot of these tracks have these pit out corners with these epic turn 1 kind of corners. What's the other track I'm trying to think of? Knockhill is kind of the same way. You have to use the pit exit to get yourself into turn 1. So it's just a very traditional sort of thing for these kind of natural road courses.
Yeah, and this one's a fun one. You know, you can see even on the TV cameras a little bit. You can see all the elevation changes, and there's not, obviously it's a pretty flat track. There's, you know, as far as like camber for you know, for being in the corner, but pretty flat that way. But up and down, and from the front of the nose to the tip of the wing, back to forth, there's a decent amount of elevation gain, and it's a lot of fun to see these guys do battle here. But this is still probably the closest battle on track. Matt Wagner's still trying to get around the number 40 machine of Jim Herrick. You see there, Jim Herrick has had, even on the harder compound tires, he's had a really good ability to carry speed through that final chicane down the front straightaway, and that's probably one of your best areas to pass. And because of that, Matt Wagner not able to get up to his rear bumper, can get there in the braking zone of the chicane, but can't carry enough speed to carry speed down that front straightaway. And like you mentioned, Andrew, that makes it really difficult to pass when your only passing zone is a couple short straightaways.
Yeah, I had to say the same thing. I was noticing that before, that Jim Herrick is the best of the black tire guys right now. He's the only one to keep it every corner kind of straight. He's not doing a lot of rear sliding. We saw Craig Forsyth have a little bit of a moment. We saw Dan Marrera have that moment on lap 1. So I would say that Herrick is the best of the black tire drivers here, and it'll be very interesting to see how much ground he might be able to make up on the reds. Now, one thing I should mention is that you're so used to driving on the blacks that when you put the reds on, it's almost like heaven, and you really don't know what to take of it. So Jari Brubacher just entered the pits. But yeah, it looks like starting on the blacks is the easiest because you get the hardest bit of driving out of the way. You don't have to worry about your tire warm-up. You don't have to worry about any sort of rear slide or setting your bars a certain way to drive. You get on the reds, and it's just gravy from there.
Yeah, and you see now Bruno Miranda has made his way around Eric Schaus into the second position as they try to reel in Chris Stouffer here. See if we can take a second to look back at how that pass happened, as it looked like it happened here into turn number 1. A good move at the end of the straightaway for Bruno to get back up to P2, and has just Chris Stouffer ahead of him now on track.
That was a great bit of driving by both drivers there. Both a lot of respect. I think Eric knew he had his goose cooked there at the end of the straightaway, and Bruno kind of just tucked his car in nice and neat. No slide, no nothing. They gave each other a lot of room, and both of them lost almost no time to the leader. So good move there by Bruno.
Yeah, absolutely there, and a lot of racing respect for both of them as they battle really tough, but also really respectfully. It's great to see that kind of camaraderie when you're racing guys on a league like this.
Matt Wagner is just exiting pits right now. Looks like he has put on the black tires, so he's going red-black. He's going to make this his sacrifice stint. I find it very interesting, Boomer, that it's 20 laps. They're doing this 20-20-20, which I find to be very interesting, because if the black tires really are that much slower, you want to run them as least as you possibly can. So if there's any way to save a lap or two of fuel, maybe do like 21-21 and then 18 on the black tires. I guess the fuel restriction regulations in the series might prevent them from doing like a 25-25-10 or something like that, based on the size of the tank that the series runs. But yeah, I find the 20 laps on reds and then going to blacks. Will Matt Wagner plan on pitting lap 40, or will he bail maybe on like 37, 38 or so to put the reds on for the end? I'm very interested to see that.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see as Chris Stouffer, Craig Forsyth, Jari Brubacher, Matt Wagner, and Jim Herrick have all made their pit stops. Bruno Miranda and Eric Schaus are in this time by. That will give the lead to Michael Carrillo, who was up to second for a while there and started to fade a little bit, had a little bit of a moment there out of the final chicane and lost a lot of track position, but he is your leader at the moment, as pretty much the rest of the field is either on pit road or has already made their service. So Michael Carrillo going to try and stretch these red tires a couple extra laps so he can presumably have less
Chris Stouffer tried to beat Bruno Miranda out of the pits, and I think Bruno got a little bit scared and went off the track. So I think Bruno has lost even more time.
Yeah, let's see if we can take it back to that moment there. As you'll see, the one of Bruno Miranda coming in your screen from the right, Chris Stouffer in the 13 there, giving plenty of room as Bruno Miranda, and on the soft tires, looks like he's going to slide.
Yeah, you could see it in that view right there. Chris decided to go red. Bruno decided to go black tires. There is no grip on those black tires, as I mentioned before, coming out of the pits. So he tried to give some room to Stouffer, but unfortunately Bruno just went right off the track with no grip at all. That's unfortunate there. That's just bad luck. There's nothing that any driver did wrong there. That's just a matter of trying their best to get the advantage out of the pit lane. But I mean, I don't really know what Bruno was going for there, because if he had made turn 1, there's no way that he'd be able to hold Chris Stouffer up on hot red tires on his cold black tires.
Yeah, definitely. It takes a couple laps, as you mentioned, more so on the black tires to get up to speed, whereas the reds are more readily available. And you mentioned Christopher and Eric Schaus are going to go back-to-back red tire stints here, and they will finish off the race with the harder compound. But Christopher well and away now a 2.3, 2.2 second advantage in the lead. Got about 8.5 seconds back to Bruno Miranda, 11 seconds back to Michael Carrillo. Obviously, he has not done his final stint with these harder compound tires, but I would like to think that that'd be a good position to be in at the moment.
You have to check out that pass that Dan Marrera just made on Matt Wagner for P7, I believe.
Yep, we'll bring it back.
Yep, I think a matter of Wagner was trying to get the advantage on Brubacher down in turn 3, and Marrera just found the way to get around the outside and beats Matt Wagner to the next right-hander.
Wow, what a move. That is incredible. That was
such an opportune move that
yeah.
I would have tried to set that up myself if I saw someone ahead of me trying to struggle to pass the car up ahead. Just find the clean air and make that outside pass. So great move by Marrera, especially him trying to make up some time from that early spin.
Yeah, definitely. He's on the red tires this time, so the softer compound. Matt Wagner is getting his harder compound stint out of the way, and that was a great move that we saw there from Dan Marrera. Definitely an opportunity. It's not always easy to pass somebody on the outside, especially on a road course where, like we mentioned, there's no camber. The track is pretty much flat left to right, and that was definitely a power move, as Dan Marrera is actually going to be looking to take Jari Brubacher's position away from him as well. As we see Jari is also on the harder compound for this middle stint here, as Damir is trying to climb his way back up through the field, and he should.
I think he has a great run down the front straightaway right here. I think he's going to try the same move that, well, Miranda was coming out of the pit lane, but same move that Miranda and Stouffer did before. This is a great over-under move. I think he's going to do the same exact thing that he tried to do to Wagner the lap before.
A good setup here. Doesn't quite get it as they're kind of entering the S's here, but he is all over the back of that 49 machine as he's going to try and set it up again. Get a nice move. Is he going to make the move to the outside in the same corner? Maybe not. We'll see. He's going to get back the crossover. He's actually going to be just on the inside there as Jari shuts the door.
Let's not discount Jari Brubacher's great driving here on the black tires with not a lot of grip. Oh, he goes a little bit wide there. I think Marrera's going to have the move. Oh, he spins as well.
Yeah, definitely a hard battle there. Unfortunately, Jari just running out of traction there. It's going to relegate him back to the 9th position, but still a great battle as he'll get back up to speed.
I have to give Jari a great shout out there for great driving on those black tires, holding off someone on those grippy reds, trying their best to hold him back. I think Jari realized that he was probably sitting in a spot where he was not going to be able to hold them off, but did the best he could, and I have to give a lot of props to both drivers there for driving as hard as they possibly could.
Yeah, absolutely, and I mean, still an incredible amount of car control for him to slide the car, not spin it, and not go really too far off of the racing surface either, so that's definitely an incredible amount of car control that we just saw from Jari, and hopefully once he gets back on the red tires, he can try to climb back up through the field, but as for now, pretty much about a 1 second gap between everybody, at least on track. It's Chris Stouffer, though, who is leading at the moment and is going to be probably at this point pretty much wrapping up the most laps led, as he has led every lap except for under the pit flag, or the green, the green flag pit cycle there. We saw a couple laps led for Michael Carrillo, who is now in 4th. But Chris Stouffer resumes that lead, and he's actually using quite a bit of his push-to-passes. He's down to 4 left as he's trying to increase that gap before he has to go on that final stint with those black tires, the harder compound.
Yeah, we got Chris Stouffer and Eric Schaus that are both doing double reds right now, so they're both going to have to run the black tire at the end of the race, whereas Bruno Miranda is going to run the reds, but he's going to have a lot of ground to make up on these guys after having the off-course incident on the pit out there, plus him still trying to make up ground for that lap 1 incident with Chris Stouffer.
Yeah, we saw that last time by, though. Bruno Miranda actually ran a 54.88 to Chris Stouffer's 54.84, which is more impressive because Stouffer is on the red compound and Miranda is not. So only 0.04 of a second that separate the two of them. So it seems like the red tires are starting to even out a little bit, at least between Chris and Bruno, as they are the 2 fastest drivers on the track at the moment, as Bruno's trying to get back up now within almost 8.5 seconds of Chris and starting to slowly reel in Schaus. But it's interesting here. There's 3.7 seconds between our leader and second place, Chris and Eric. Chris has used all but 4 of his push-to-passes, and Eric has not used a single one yet. Obviously, there's a over a 3.5 second gap there. Is that push-to-pass enough to try and get rid of some of that margin, or is that going to be too much to overcome from having those extra push-to-passes with Eric?
Yeah, it's tough to tell, really. If I were Chris, I would try and conserve those as best I could for the next, I don't know, 15, 20 laps or so. He has no reason to use them right now, especially because Eric is so far behind. But if you're leading and you only have 4 laps, you really have to try and hold them as close to you as possible. I don't think there's any reason to use them until he's feeling threatened from a potential Bruno Miranda on red tires later in the race.
Yeah, as Bruno actually had a pretty good lap there. I think Eric Schaus is starting to, well, not too close, but it's getting starting to reel him in just a little bit. Only 5.5 seconds between Bruno and Eric Schaus at the moment. Then again, about 9 seconds now to Christopher, as those softer compound tires for Chris are still continuing to pay off here. But towards the end of the stint, the final stint, Bruno will be back on the reds. We will assume should be a pretty safe assumption, and then Chris and Eric obviously having to take those harder compounds. But Eric Peterson is actually in this time by, as it looks like he went off track, came back on track, and might have been a unscheduled stop there, and no more timing and scoring from him, so that could be a retirement for the 36 of Eric Peterson tonight in P11, unfortunately.
Yeah, he had a bit of a rough go in the back of the field there, so he probably just decided, you know what, I'm not going to gain any more spots up here. I'm not really driving my best at the moment, so it's best to just kind of retire the car, save it for next week.
Yeah, definitely, especially if you know that, if road courses maybe are not your forte, and there's not really much to gain. I still, obviously tonight that's still 11th place points for a road course, which is not too bad. So the people that are brave enough to brave it out and have fun tonight, definitely getting a little bit of an advantage. So not the worst case for a retirement to still come home with 11th place points, even for Alan Morera for 12th place points himself. So definitely helps. Anything you can get will help in that championship battle, as we have that season-long points battle just like the IndyCar Series. No gimmicks, no playoffs, no points resets, just a straight heads-up, good old-fashioned points battle.
Yeah, it's great to see these guys challenge themselves on a road course tonight. As viewers around here know, this is an oval-centric kind of series, so we like to dabble some road courses once in a while just to kind of switch things up and maybe try and help sharpen some people's prowess on the road courses. I'm sure everybody in this field has a different reason why they're here tonight. They want to practice some road course racing. They want to see where they stack up against some other random people in the IndyCar community, to see where they stack up. They want to see exactly how they could drive a car around a road course, or some people just want to actually go out there and win the thing. So that's the reason why I think we have these crop of guys here tonight. I think it's about a third each of guys that love road course racing, guys that kind of want to improve a little bit, and guys that want to try it for the first time and see how they are. So shout out to all the guys that decided to take some time to practice this track, more than my 10 minutes of practice itself for my hot lap there. Yeah, it would be very interesting to see how even I would stack up against these guys, because these guys are definitely hitting the limit everywhere. They're using all the track. They're using push the passes when they have to. They're probably changing their anti-roll bars in the car, trying to stabilize the rear or maybe loosen the front or something like that. So I give these guys a lot of credit for showing up tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, you mentioned a little bit on your hot lap at the beginning of the broadcast, some of the downshifts and some of the upshifts. I mean, there's a ton of downshifts and upshifts throughout every lap, but these guys are probably playing around with those ARBs and weight jackers to try and get that car to balance a little bit better in every different corner, because not too many of these corners are alike. Maybe a few of them, some of the right hands, left hands, the higher speed ones are similar, but there's definitely a wide variety of different corners, and the car is going to be having a different feeling in just about every style of turn that they have here. So there's, I mean, these guys not only have their hands full with, like we said, the upshifts, the downshifts, turning left and right, but also all of the settings and all the buttons that you can play with. It definitely adds to the realism and also the difficulty.
You know, it's funny you bring that up, Boomer, because I actually have some statistics here. The drivers will shift around 32 times per lap. And if you extrapolate that to, let's say, 10 drivers here, that's 320 shifts per lap, which equates to about 1480 times over the course of the race. These drivers will be shifting up and down. So, yeah, it's definitely one of those eye-popping numbers that you really think about, going, wow, that's insane. These drivers got to have that much focus to stay on track, drive fast, and also shift that many times.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes a lot of concentration, and if there's anything there, whether you had a long day at work or didn't sleep well last night, and anything that can detract from that concentration. I know that it seems like it is just a video game, but there's definitely, you have to be on. There's an edge there of skill that you really have to be on top of to be ready for these events, especially for some of these guys that, if you're at a point where you've practiced enough, you could probably do some of this in your sleep, knowing where you brake, describing where you downshift, what corners are what gear, and what corners are first gear turns and second gear and third gear, and what are you at the end of the straightaway. I mean, by the time you get to a repetition of this, like, it's a second nature, and but you got to practice it enough though to get to that point. It takes a little bit of time.
Yeah, so I'm looking at some of these lap times here, and I'm wondering who is going to be the first person to blink here. And I actually predict that Bruno Miranda is going to be our first driver down pit road here, because I'm sure as soon as he's, these drivers on these road courses are doing all sorts of fuel numbers and fuel math and stuff in their head. I think as soon as Bruno realizes that he's at a number he could ride comfortably and do these red tires to try and catch these leaders, he's going to go for it. He's already closed about a second and a half on Stouffer in the lead, and even more to Schaus, who seems to be struggling on these reds a little bit. He's closed a little bit. I think he wants to get on these red tires as fast as he possibly can and start to go for that lead again.
Yeah, once that fuel window opens, be sure to watch for pit road and see who's going to come down. But, I mean, props to Bruno for sure. On the harder compounds, ran the same lap time as Christopher on the softer compounds that last time by a 55.05 for both of them. As we'll see what it is this time by a 55.36 for Christopher. And it looks like it's going to be a 54.98 for Bruno Miranda. So 0.3 of a second faster that time for the number one IR18 machine. So definitely making a lot of time up now as the black and red tires have evened out on this longer second stint here.
Yeah, he's catching Eric Schaus at a quick pace now, and I guarantee he's going to get right behind him and he's going to pit, so he doesn't have to even worry about trying to pass him at all. There's a lapped car up there, actually, that of Gary Lovern, who's pulling over to let them by, which is very nice. Very gentlemanlike there, so good on Gary. I think as soon as Bruno gets behind Eric, he's going to say, I'm in the pits. I'm going to make this fuel work, and I'm going to do what I can. So let's see if this time or next time by he comes in.
Yeah, he's within 0.6 of a second there that time by as they come down and cross the stripe. We are 23 laps to go for our leader, Christopher, as the rest of the field winds through the road course here at Donington. And this is the closest battle on track. It's been a minute since we've had a battle on track that was within a second or so. So it's nice to see some cars close to each other enough to pounce. We'll see if Bruno is going to pit now or not. Obviously, probably at least a lap or so to really feel extremely comfortable with that fuel mileage towards the end. But, like you said, it would be more advantageous for Bruno to not be held up by Eric or not waste the energy to try and pass him either.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens here. Will he pit this lap, or will he try and say I'm pass him? There's a nice machismo battle that goes on with this kind of thing too. It's like, man, I really want to get by. Oh, there he goes. Eric made the mistake in the chicane. Looks like Bruno got the spot there easily. So maybe Bruno will stay out another lap, but I would imagine by lap 40, these guys seem to be doing this on 20 on their stints there.
Yeah, pretty uniform across the board. Matt Wagner came in at lap 19. Jared Brubacher actually came in at 18. So He's going to probably need to pit before anybody else, but we know that everybody can do at least 20-21. Michael Carrillo going 22 laps on that first stint, so have to wait and see how that falls into place. But now looking at the intervals, there is not much of a battle between anybody. The closest two cars on track are actually still Bruno Moreno and Eric Schaus. Actually, excuse me, they were about 3 seconds apart, but Jim Herrick there is about 2.6 seconds behind Matt Wagoner, and that is the closest battle on track at the moment. So goes to show you how much this has strung out. But don't forget, remember, some of these guys still have to do their final stint, and the mandatory harder compound, the black tires, have to be used for everybody who went double reds for the first two green flag pit cycles. So there's going to be a little bit of strategy there for Matt Wagner. Will be back on the reds for the final stint. Michael Carrillo and Bruno Miranda doing really well in this middle sector for running the black tires as well. So they'll be back on the reds. There's a little bit of a moment there for Jim Herrick over the curbs, but we are getting into just about 20 to go. So we'll be looking to see actually Jari Brubacher in this time by.
Yeah, I'm doing a little bit of a memory serving here. I think the only people you're going to see on the blacks at the end of the race are Stouffer and Eric Schaus. I think everybody else has done each tire, so I would imagine that most drivers are going to try their best to finish on the red tire.
And we see Stouffer in this time by going to be putting those black tires on, as Bruno Miranda is actually going to take the lead for the first time tonight.
Yeah, except for when he started the race.
That's true, yes.
As the leader, but unfortunately he didn't make it very far. But you know, I have to mention to you, like, it's definitely very hard to pick your strategy with these tires. You go into a race expecting to have, I'm going to do red, red, black, or I'm going to do black, red, red, or something like that. But it has to change based on your situation. So a Dan Morera, for example, that spun on the first lap, he may have to change his strategy up and see where he stacks up in the field. So yeah, it's never an optimal strategy to say I'm going to do this tire, this tire, this tire. It all depends on your situation. I think both Stouffer and Eric Schaus, given the circumstances of what they were dealing with Bruno Miranda's pace, made the right choice here.
Yeah, and interesting to note, Bruno Miranda, not this past time by, but the previous lap, ran the fastest lap of the race on the black tires. So he is absolutely on rails as he is trying to get back to that lead as much as he can. But he ran a 54.70, which is, I mean, incredible for this late in the stint. Obviously, the car's going to get lighter and get a little bit faster as the fuel load decreases as it burns off throughout the run. But that is still an incredible lap for his best of 54.70 this late in a stint on the harder compound tires.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where the track temp must be optimal, the tire temp must be optimal, and the fuel level must be optimal. And you have one of those laps where you just lean back and say, man, I wish I could do that for all 6 of these laps. But yeah, great lap by Bruno there, and trying his best to maximize whatever he can on the disadvantaged tire he's on. Let's see what he could do for the last, what do we got, 18 laps here to try and catch the lead.
Yeah, he's going to have that advantage of the tires there, and obviously he did a great job on his harder compound stint there at the middle of this race. Chris Stouffer is going to pass here for the lead as Bruno is in the pits, but he'll be coming out not too far behind him, about 3 seconds, probably about 4 seconds by the time he gets up to speed here. Maybe not. 3 seconds here is the gap, and Bruno Miranda is on the softer compound. Should be able to roll off a little bit faster here with 18 laps to go, and he may actually have a shot at this one. Chris Stouffer and Bruno have about the same amount of push to passes left. Eric Schaus relegated to third for the moment after going wide on the last corner, but he does still have 10 push to passes left, and we'll have to wait and see how it plays out.
Yeah, it's going to take we just have to hope that Stouffer doesn't make the same Dan Morera mistake that was made earlier in the race. I know he feels the pressure and he knows Bruno's coming and everything, but he has to try and get these tires warmed up at a nice pace, make sure he gets his braking points right, and make sure he sets his bars a certain way to make sure that the car is set properly. Don't push it too much that you lose any sort of advantage you have, because you only have to hold on for 16 laps.
And you saw there as Bruno Miranda just before the chicane swerving back just a little bit left and right to get a little more heat in those tires, get up to speed, as the gap is now 3 seconds and starting to close here. We'll see once these guys both put down a clean lap. Obviously, Bruno's last lap was an out lap, but Christopher running a 54.83 that last time by, which is about 0.3 off of his best, which is still a great lap time. But Bruno is absolutely closing here. As this last lap, he's had about 0.5 of a second here. As there may have been a moment for Christopher here, but he's a little bit slower there, as he's going to give up 0.7 of a second this lap.
Yeah, like I mentioned in previous black tire replays we watch, it's one of those things where you really want to push it, but you just don't have the tire life underneath you, and it's such a hard thing to remember, especially now. Chris has run red tires for 41 laps straight, so he's gotten into rhythm and he knows exactly how he's got to drive. But you have to drive a certain way. You'll be much faster if you lower your expectations and back it down a certain way. To make sure that you preserve the tire life and everything. Otherwise, the guy behind you on the reds will close on you like that.
Speaking of that, Bruno Miranda ran a 54.18 that last time by, 0.3 of a second faster than anybody else's fastest lap in the field, and he is now within 1.5 seconds of Christopher, as he is really hungry to get back to the front of this pack.
Yeah, I'm going to make a prediction here. I don't think Stouffer is going to put up much of a fight here, especially after the incident they had on lap 1. I'm sure Chris is riding with a bit of a guilty heart because of the contact they had there. So I'm sure that, especially knowing he's on a certain tire, he may just give the spot to Bruno. It's going to happen here in the next few laps. There's 14 laps to go on those black tires. He's not going to be able to hold that lead up.
Yeah, and that last time by, a 55.45 for Chris Stouffer and a 54.24 for Bruno Miranda. Obviously, he's caught that 3-second gap now down to 0.5 second in about 2.5 laps. So should be this time or next lap by the time Bruno gets back around and back to the lead. After you mentioned that pole position. So Bruno has quite a bit of pace. Like we said, an incredible middle sector of this race on the harder tires, and now has a tire advantage. The compound.
Ooh.
Yeah, a little interesting there.
Yeah, it's weird. Chris did exactly what I said, and he was going to give the spot to Bruno because I'm sure he feels bad for the Turn 1 incident, but Bruno lifted, which was a very interesting. That was a very miscommunication there. I don't really know what to say about that one. I thought Bruno would just go steaming right by, but I mean, we say this time and time again, Boomer, these guys in this league have the utmost respect for each other. Sometimes things happen, and it might be something that Bruno said, hey, something happened, but I want to pass you the right way. I want to feel like I actually accomplished something here, come back from some adversity. So let's see what happens here in the next couple laps.
Yeah, he's right on the tail of him. He's going to have the advantage in the braking zone there. He's going to take that spot, and they're going to battle side by side.
I have to say that was not exactly what I meant by trying to take advantage. He took advantage in one of the most sketchiest uphill blind right-hand corners on the track. So maybe that was more of a message, like, yeah, you did something there that I wasn't really expecting you to do. So now I'm going to try and disadvantage you somehow. I don't know about that one. I wasn't expecting that at all.
Yeah, a little interesting, but obviously, it's frustrating for Bruno. After the contact between him and Christopher going into turn 1 and relegated him, I think, to 6th. For a moment, obviously, Bruno has had to battle back all race long and has done it in commanding fashion, as he is now going to gap Chris this lap by at least 0.7 of a second here, coming through kind of the backstretch portion here, the longer backstretch on the backside of the track. And yeah, it's definitely been an impressive drive for Bruno so far, as he's been a man on a mission trying to get back to this spot right here, and should be in a pretty good position with the tire advantage. At some point, Chris will probably even out to Bruno's pace as the tires start to wear off for those reds, but for Bruno, that is, the reds. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And at this point, they have pretty much said goodbye, checked out, see you later. Eric Schaus is now 13.5 seconds off the lead. Obviously, we saw him have a little bit of a moment there, but definitely a great drive for Bruno and Chris so far.
Yeah, I'm actually watching the Jim Herrick, Jari Brubacher battle for 8th. They're really coming to blows here. Jim really seems like he has more pace, and he tries to set up Jari in such a way, but he just kind of touches a bit of grass or kind of gets a little bit loose and can't quite get it done. So I think these two are going to battle for quite some time here.
Yeah, so we'll keep on this for a moment. This is the closest battle on track by a decent amount. Is looks like Craig Forsyth might have actually had a little bit of an off track there. Not entirely sure, but a little slow there for him. But still 0.6 of a second between these two here as you see Jim Herrick into the braking zone. Got a great advantage, and unfortunately the only bummer for us with a full green flag road course is that we don't get a chance to see the wonderful 4dracewear.com commercial, but rest assured there still is that 15% discount for 4dracewear.com, area 5115, area 5115. Go to 4dracewear.com and get that 15% off for being a friend of Area 51 for all of your sim racing apparel purchases. I know they got gloves and shoes and plenty of other really cool stuff, and they'll be raffling off or giving away 3 sets of gloves to different drivers in different leagues that we have here at Area 51, obviously the Tuesday, the Thursday, and the Sunday night series. So really appreciate what everybody at the 4D Racewear team does for this league and for the fans.
Yeah, that's a great discount. That's great for Jim Herrick and the guys over at 4D Racewear doing their best to promote any sort of sim racing, especially now that we're getting broadcasting back in the IndyCar series, which has been such a long time coming. We get a lot of viewers and a lot of comments of guys that love watching this. So it's great that these guys are jumping right back into the advertising and trying to get their name out there.
Yeah, thankfully iRacing and IndyCar finally getting that rights deal put back together so we can broadcast this wonderful league. Obviously, we took about a year's hiatus from that dispute, not wanting to infringe on any copyrights, any other issues. Obviously, the IndyCar, the vehicle itself still remaining in iRacing, but all of the IndyCar badging and all the name branding and everything on whether it's in the racetracks or on the cars was completely removed from iRacing, and that was why we could not do that. But nonetheless, that's gone and done with, and we are back in racing again as we've got a good battle here now between Craig Forsyth and Dan Morera, one of the other 4D Racewear, some of the 4D Racewear drivers as well, as they're going to try and do battle as they are in the chicane in the front stretch here.
I just want to make that known. 381 days we were in shackles of no IndyCar broadcasting. So yes, you're right. Just over a year. There was a counter we had going in the community. So 381 days of no broadcasting, but here we are. We're back live watching Morera and Forsyth. Yeah, these guys are all on 2 different paths this race. Both star on the black tires. Morera had a bit of a moment early on in the race, but he's trying to fight his way back to a top 5 here, and he actually looks like he has a bit more pace than Forsyth right now, but this almost looks like the Brubacher and Jim Herrick battle where Morera's kind of impatient and not really finding a spot, but it looks like he has a decent run here going to the last corner.
Yeah, and it's fun. I mean, these guys are teammates. Like, I don't know about you, Andrew, but I don't race anybody harder than I race my teammates or my friends, honestly. Like, it is more fun sometimes to battle it out with a guy that you know is a good friend and is going to be, you know, you'll be able to lean on him a little bit, he'll lean on you, and just good, hard, clean, fun racing.
I have to say that Dan Morera had 2 absolutely abhorrent races to start the season.
Ooh, car off track there ahead of them.
It looks like Gary Lovern, perhaps. Oh, no, it looks like Carrillo. Yep, who was P4 at the time, so
yeah, so
that's like Dan Morera got his P5 just by doing nothing.
So their other teammate, Michael Carrillo, teammates of Craig Forsyth and Dan Morera, is going to have a moment there, go off track, and that's going to give Dan and Craig the top 4 and top 5 positions at the moment, but they are still battling really hard, and Michael Carrillo is going to get them back into this battle, and we're going to finally have a 3-car battle for the first time in quite a while as we are at the 7 to go mark in this one.
Yeah, unfortunately, Michael Carrillo didn't learn his lesson from the first spin at turn 1 and got on the throttle too early. Probably had his bar set wrong. Gets loose right into the grass. It was a carbon copy of his lap, whatever that was, 12, 13 spin he had there. So, yeah, I have to say that I'm sure that Dan Morera wants nothing more than to flex his muscle on all his teammates right now, come back and get a top 5, top 4 now based on what's happened. But he wants to show that he is still good enough to be on this team, and he wants to claw some points back for the championship for sure, after having 2 absolutely horrible races to start the season.
Absolutely, and we see a battle here between the other teammate for 4DRacer.com, Jim Herrick. He's going to get around the outside of Jari Brubacher, but he's going to go wide and into the sand, into the grass, Yari's going to get on through, and looks like that's going to be actually that's our race leader, Bruno Miranda, getting around Jim Herrick now. So only one spot lost for Jim Herrick, but had the opportunity and just pushed too hard into turn one, and he's going to have to settle for 9th at the moment.
Unfortunately, Jim Herrick just did what I did for the first 7 laps. I tried to do a demo lap for our presentation to start the race, where I didn't realize how sharp turn 1 was, and I went into the sand. So I feel his his stress there, and unfortunately you don't do that during the race and try and keep a spot or gain a spot. So unfortunately Jim didn't get by Yari there, but who knows? We still have 5 laps to go here, 6 laps to go. Probably get him going for something else later on with Yari.
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to try and get back up there, but not quite a lot of time to get there, as 5 laps to go is now displayed on the tower, and these guys are still doing battle here. Back on your screen here is Dan Marrera and Craig Forsyth. Craig Forsyth with the advantage right now, but Dan Marrera all over the rear wing of that number 99 machine, trying to get past and get up to the 4th position after he's had a really good run. But you mentioned that that slider that's been there for Dan, trying to not I mean, obviously still a great run going, but it always sucks to know that you made a mistake and that it cost you some spots or some time on track, Andrew.
Did you see the back of both of their cars coming down to the last chicane?
They were a little sideways.
They both want this so bad, and I really do think Dan is faster right now. But driving with Craig for as long as I have, he is a very hard person to get by. You have to do it almost convincingly and almost like kind of surprisingly. And once you get the spot on him, he'll give it to you every time.
Contact.
Oh, there's some contact there. Oh, that's such a bummer for Dan. And the last few laps, he's definitely had the advantage in that double right-hander, but I think Craig just caught him out a tiny bit. But yeah, Michael Carrillo picks up top 5 spot again. Looks like Dan is having problem getting through the chicane there, so he might have some front wing damage. Yeah, his right front wing is cleaved off the car there, unfortunately.
Yeah, we saw that actually from the nose cam on the broadcast, so that's some luck there. Michael Carrillo is going to catch a little bit of the grass there. See if Dan Marrera can get back, but we'll see Dan Marrera going to be quite a bit slower without that front downforce. Going to be definitely a lot trickier to set that nose and get that car squared away for the corner. So unfortunately for Dan, he's going to probably bleed a little bit more time there. And obviously, you know, he's had a good race so far, had made a couple mistakes and got just a little bit in the back of his teammate Craig Forsyth there, but definitely, unfortunately for him, a great drive, but he's probably going to want to have some of those mistakes back throughout the night. I think he'll be okay. He's got about a 9-second advantage over Matt Wagner, but he's going to bleed a lot of time in these last few laps.
You know, this is one of those things, unfortunately, that like when you're not very familiar with road course racing, there's definitely a certain finesse that you have to try and figure out to outshine your opponent there. And unfortunately for Dan, he just seemed so much faster, but he was kind of rushing into corners very fast, especially that double right-hander, the corner that Craig and Michael are in right now. I think he needs to kind of back off and gain a little bit more speed to try and get some more advantage. And as hard as it is to pass around here, and trust me, I've been watching these guys, it is very hard to pass around here. You just have to find some way to get some advantage to get the overspeed into a following corner, and I don't think Dan did that, but I think losing the front wing there is enough of an excuse to sort of knock you back into shape and say, you know what, maybe I need to kind of let up a little more in these corners I'm battling with these guys, and maybe I'll find myself by them in the following corner if I do it the correct way.
Yeah, definitely a bummer for sure, charging a little bit there, but he's going to pay for that final mistake as he's running 58-second laps, and the rest of the field running in the 55-second bracket for the moment. So, but we'll see. It's going to be another opportunity. Craig Forsyth doesn't get to just sit back. He's going to have another charge from his other teammate, Michael Carrillo, here, as Craig has had pretty much a rear mirror full of teammates and other drivers trying to run him down pretty much this whole race, and still holding on pretty solidly with a 4th place at the moment. Michael Carrillo, you can see there, getting a lot of ground gained in that braking zone and just trying to time it right to have the momentum as he comes out of a corner, down a backstretch or a long straightaway, so that he can make a pass.
Yeah, it looks like we got the white flag, so one more lap to go here, and I think Bruno Moreno's got this one locked up.
I would like to think so. Obviously, it's been a little while since we talked about the leaders here, just because it's been kind of spread out with Bruno on the softer compound, and Chris Stouffer and Eric Schaus in second and third pretty solidly for each of them. 5 seconds back to Chris Stouffer and another 14 seconds back from Chris to Eric. So pretty solidly set for the podium placings tonight, but gets us a chance to bring it back to the front stretch to celebrate Bruno Miranda and the incredible comeback win. The contact that we saw from turn number 1, getting turned off the nose, little contact from Chris Stouffer, getting back to the lead in commanding fashion, and a hard-earned win here tonight for Bruno in this number 1 car. So we will have to get organized for our interviews here in just a second. Try and get a few guys up here into the booth. Try and grab an interview with our top 3 as usual. And appreciate your patience as we get organized. You see the drivers with the cool down lap here. Bruno Miranda again emerging victorious from the pole. Didn't lead a lot of laps. Did not lead the most. I think that went to Chris Stouffer for sure. But a very hard-earned drive as we'll continue to try and grab some of our drivers, trying to get a copy here. But yeah, we'll see. Looks like we're going to see Bruno burn it down on the front stretch here and celebrate here a little, Andrew.
Yeah, it looks like he did his best to come back there, and I actually do feel like that Stouffer really wanted Bruno to come back there.
All right, looks like we do have a copy of our first interviewee, Eric Schaus. So we are going to bring him up to the broadcast booth now, the number 72 of Eric Schaus. We saw a great battle at the front of the field. Saw you taking the reds early on and then hanging on to the harder compound for the final stint, Eric, but still coming home in a pretty solid third place tonight. Take us through what it felt like from the driver's seat.
Oh, well, I'm happy with the podium, but in general, I did not enjoy that race. That first stint, I felt great. Started out strong, and I was keeping pace with Chris and Bruno. No real issue there. But when I pitted, I don't know what it was. That car was not the same on the other side. It was just a pushy monster, and I was overdriving it. And I just struggled from there, and I couldn't keep up with those guys. They were just too quick for me. So I'm happy that I got the podium in the end. Michael there at the end was catching on me until I think he had an incident. But I had no confidence left in that car.
Did you feel like that the car really fell off at a certain point of the stint, or did you feel it kind of gradually falling off and you were trying your best to keep up with whatever changes you needed to make it actually drive at the same sort of pace that you need?
It was usually pretty pushy at the start with the heavy fuel, and then it would get a little better near the end and free up some. But I was playing with bars and I was playing with bias, and I could get into a sweet spot for maybe a lap or two, and then it would just go away from me again, and I just couldn't get any consistency going.
Yeah, it sounds like the car might have been even from my hot lap that I did during the practice session there. It did seem a little bit tight where you kind of had to really just over slow the car to get any sort of pace on it if the tires were out in that sense. So yeah, it seemed like it might be difficult to run it as long as you can.
Yeah, I was putting I was getting a lot of rotation on the brakes and then trying to finish it off on the throttle, trying to get the whole thing to turn. But if you don't get that right going into the corner, it just pushes through it. And same with the exit of the corner. You got to be spot on with it every lap. And I just didn't have the confidence to do that. It was on occasion, it would feel a little slick to me, and that would just spook me a little bit, and I'd have to back off, and then it just started to push.
Yeah, we definitely we're kind of noticing that with the red tires. It seemed like both you and Chris got a little more comfortable with the softer compound in the earlier stages of the race and weren't able to be as confident in the car towards the later stages. Is that, I mean, I assume that's just from getting in a comfort zone with the difference of the tires there?
Yeah, pretty much. I don't have a great explanation for why it fell off for so much for me. It was just probably a combination of overdriving it, overworking the front tires a little bit, then it starts to push, then you lose confidence, and it's just a snowball effect.
Yeah, definitely. Well, still a hard-earned third place for you tonight, Eric, and a couple good starts for you to start out the season. And want to say congratulations to you for that third place, and roll out that red carpet for any thanks or shout-outs you'd like to have.
Yeah, thanks to you guys. I look forward to watching this one. It was actually a fun race to watch Bruno and Chris for a little bit there, and then Bruno to come back through the field. He did amazing. He definitely earned that win today. Chris did an excellent job as well. He had more pace than I did, so hats off to him. So thanks to those guys for good racing. Thanks to you guys at the broadcast. Thanks for Area 51, and thanks to any people out there watching.
Yeah, we'll
One
have
quick
to...
thing.
Go
One
ahead.
quick thing, Eric.
Yeah.
You mentioned last week in the interview that you picked the races that you feel like you could get good finishes at. So did you show up to this race? I should preface this question by saying that I broke this race down into 3 different groups of people. I broke them down into road course guys that know they could be fast, groups of guys that are okay and they really don't know what they're doing, so they're trying to sort of improve their skills, or the I don't know what I'm doing, but it's an Area 51 race and I'm going to show up on. So which of those 3 categories did you find yourself in, and did you pick this race because you felt like you'd have a good finish?
Yeah, so I'm a road racer at heart. I love road racing. I do oval because it's a lot easier to just jump in and be on pace. But oval is where I really enjoy myself. With this one, I had never driven this track before, so this was all fresh to me. I did maybe 10, 15 laps of practice before coming in here, and then another 15 laps here. So, I mean, given that the limited practice, I feel like I did pretty well, and I knew I would finish top 5, or at least that was my hope. Because there are some other good guys in here that are pretty quick on road courses. But I knew my real competition was just Bruno and Chris. And if I could keep up with those guys and not make any mistakes, I knew I would do well.
Good deal, Eric. Well, when you watch back, you'll have to forgive us for a little bit long of an intro, but it was an exciting one with Andrew's hot lap there. And congratulations once again. A couple good starts for you in a partial schedule.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, we will move into the second interview, and that will be with Chris Stouffer, our second place finisher for the evening. Chris had a really good battle there with Bruno Miranda throughout the race and saved the harder compound tires for the end, and unfortunately having to come home second place, but still a great battle and a pretty confident second place over third Eric Schaus. Chris, why don't you take us through what it took to get to that podium placing tonight?
Well, first of all, I want to apologize on here to Bruno for getting into him in turn 1. It was one of those instances you take your eyes off the, what's in front of you, look in your mirror real quick before you go into the braking zone, and he broke a little bit earlier than I expected, of course, and got into him. But I'm glad he was able to recover, and once he caught me there at the end, I was trying to let him go. But he wanted to battle. But as soon as he got next to me, I just let him have it because I'm sure not going to win after taking somebody out and come in here and be like, yeah, I'm the winner. But no, it was a good race all the way around. I think had I chose to go with the blacks on the second stint and the reds on the last stint, I probably could have. Once I let Bruno go, I wanted to battle with him, but he was on the reds and I was on the blacks at the end, and you just couldn't keep up with the different compounds. I gave it everything it had, but I came home second again. So we'll keep that. We'll keep the streak alive.
Yeah, definitely a few there for you so far, Chris. Definitely, I know we asked last week what it's going to take to get that win, but you're going to have to wait for at least one more week. Definitely, we've been kind of asking everybody what they've been thinking about as far as, is this something that you're truly passionate about more with the road course side of things, or do you consider yourself more of like an oval racer, or what was your kind of mindset coming into tonight and this left and right hand road course?
Well, I'm an oval guy first, foremost. That's where I cut my teeth and where I hang my hat. Um, I'm not one of the fastest out there on the road. Typically, I'm glad that there's certain tracks like this track here, which I love. So when you like a track, you're able to put down more laps, and you gain speed through practice. Of course, practice makes perfect, and so I was looking forward to tonight. This layout's one of my favorite layouts. If I see like an F2 car or something racing here in official, I'll make sure to get in a race that week just to run this track or either get into practice and do some laps. So, I was looking forward to it, but I'll be looking forward to getting back to the ovals for sure.
Chris, was there any part of the race where you felt like you had enough of a gap ahead that even if you put the black unfavorable tires on, that you might actually be able to pull out some sort of advantage with a swift pit stop or anything that would get you way ahead?
Well, you had to take all the fuel because of the stint. You make it 20, maybe 21 laps as you saw. Some guys I think made it 22. Um, but with the pace I was running, I was getting 20 laps. I probably could have pushed it to 21. So I had to take full fuel. I did think I was going to have more of an advantage on that last stint when I had changed the blacks. Um, but once I came out and didn't change my tires after the first stint and stayed on reds, my bed was made at that point. So I was able to make a nice gap during that stint. I saw that too in the relative, but I turned it off because I didn't want to start staring at it and start making more mental mistakes out there on the track. So I again, if I would have went black or red, black, red on the tires, I do think probably would have been able to put up a fight at the end. I had similar pace to Bruno, so it may have been more interesting. But chips just fell as they did.
Do you feel like you had like not the perfect race, but do you feel like you had a race where you made no mistakes, where you were you very comfortable with every choice that you made during the race? Did you make any actual mistakes on track where you kind of kicked yourself saying, man, I'm not going to get ahead of Bruno here no matter what I do? Or did you kind of have a smooth race where you can kind of sit back and say, okay, I actually drove this race as best I possibly could?
No, this was not a perfect race for me. I made plenty of mental mistakes, and the first stint after the turn one debacle, I was laser focused in, and we came out, and I don't know. I just getting older. The fatigue starts to set in towards the end of the race, and I was making a lot of little mental mistakes in that last stint, and it may not have been obvious, but I certainly did, and it cost me time here and there. Probably, a tenth here, 5/10 there, um, and that adds up.
All right. Well, before I get to your age, I'll stop making mental mistakes because you just confirmed what I had as my biggest fear when I get to that age.
Oh, it only gets better. It only gets better.
Had to throw that in there, Chris.
It's all right.
Well, Chris, we'll be waiting patiently for you to grab that first victory of the season, hopefully soon, but still another hard-earned second place for you. And I want to roll out that red carpet for any thanks or shout-outs for finishing second once again.
Well, thank 4D Racewear for sponsoring the car. Make sure to go to 4draceware.com for all your sim racing needs. You guys up in the booth again, I thank you a lot for coming out and broadcasting us. I know we didn't have a large field tonight. I was kind of surprised with the track because it is a fun track to race, even just to drive around. So I was a little surprised about that, but Matt and Craig, all the guys for putting on the league, and I think again, thank the wife and kids, and you know, next week we'll see what we can do.
Happy birthday to your kid this past weekend.
Oh,
As well.
thanks, thank you. Yes, my youngest Wesley turned 7 over the weekend, so went out and celebrated, and I guess well, Wesley, I couldn't get you a first place for your birthday, but I got you a second. So we'll have to wait till next week. But then I got another son whose birthday is going to be on the first week of February, so maybe I can get a win for him.
There you go. Yeah, definitely pulling for you there, Chris, to finally break through and get that win. And definitely appreciate you. Shout out for 40raceware.com. Obviously, don't forget the code Area5115, that 15% discount for all the friends of Area 51. And appreciate all you guys do with Jim and Craig and all of the support that 40 Raceware and you guys have given to the league for years. So appreciate that, Chris, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you.
All right, we've got one more final interview here, and it is going to be with Bruno Miranda. We saw him tearing through the field, and we'll bring him up here to the broadcast booth. Definitely a hard-earned race win for you tonight, Bruno, and want to say congratulations and want to hear how it went from your view behind the driver's seat for that first place finish.
Hello everyone. I speak a little in English because my English is very very bad. But agora em espanhol. A carreira foi muito difícil.
The
Creio
race
que
it was very difficult.
e não sabia o que sucedeu na primeira curva por causa do acidente do netcode.
I don't know in the first corner the incident caused this problem, but because it was a netcode,
Depois que eu vi a repetição e vi que era fora netcode, no início eu achei que minha carreira estava acabada.
he think the netcode broke the race, his race.
Foi uma carreira muito difícil, muitos altos e baixos, e assim, foi uma carreira que consegui manter o ritmo até o final e consegui este bom resultado.
Was a race very difficult, and the he can have the tire in the temperature, and it was very difficult and use the tire to go ahead.
E queria, mais uma vez, agradecer a Chris, Stoffer e Eric Charles.
He want to send a kiss and to Eric. What? Eric
Eric Charles and
ah,
Christopher
and Christopher.
for a good race and good podium for them. And thank you, everybody. Sorry for my bad English, Andrew.
Yeah, no worries, Bruno. Appreciate you hopping in here for an interview. Definitely have seen some great races from you. Finally able to break through with that win on the season. It's got to feel good to get that first win.
Sí, sí, esse campeonato começou um pouco difícil, pois dois resultados não muito buenos.
The championship start very difficult with two results very bad or no bad but normal.
Mas essa carreira poderia pelo menos chegar no pódio, pois Chris e Eric são muito fortes em pistas roads.
Chris and Eric are very fast in the road circuits, and it do very difficult to in the championship, and they are very strong in this type of track.
Bruno, I feel like last season you had a lot of awesome races. You drove very quickly, very fast. You had a lot of good fortune last season. I raced with you myself a few races, and I found it difficult to try and find some advantage on you. So this season, I notice it's a little more difficult for you to have the good finishes. Do you think that you'll have good finishes from here on out?
Bueno, espero que sí, nas próximas carreiras, pelo menos meu objetivo para as próximas carreiras é sempre terminar no top 5, né, e conseguir muitos pontos. Infelizmente, nas últimas carreiras, acabei não conseguindo os bônus eh, de pontuação de 0 incidents. Eh, consegue
I hope yes is my objective, and I want to have the bonus about the incident. But
and finish in top 5 in all races and the final the season. E queria também agradecer mais uma vez a Roa, a minha nova equipe. Queria agradecer ao Tomás que está aqui para me ajudar e queria agradecer mais uma vez a Matt e a Craig Forsyth pela liga, que estão fazendo um excelente campeonato e a liga é sempre muito amistosa, muito amiga. E hoje vimos, durante a carreira, acabamos tendo 2 incidentes com o Chris e ele eh, prontamente fazendo uma carreira limpa, tentou me ceder a posição, achei que não devia, mas depois, como eu estava um pouco mais rápido, consegui ultrapassá-lo.
I he say thank you to Rob, the new team, and Christopher, and the all of people for this league, and thank you this league for
Craig and Matt, Craig and
the
Matt,
Brigman, and all of people of the league to be like uh, I don't know how to say friendly and
I think we
yes,
actually we heard a lot of the names there. Yeah. So
yes, yes.
Craig, Matt, and 4D and Chris and yes. Thank you very much, Bruno. That was good. A good interview there. Thank you for thanking all the guys that take part in this, and it is a great league, and we hope to talk to you again in future races.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for our broadcast. And thank you all them in the league.
Awesome. Well, congratulations again, Bruno, and hope to talk to you again soon. And appreciate your patience with us. I know obviously a little difficult when it's not your first language, but appreciate the interview and congratulations once again.
Oh, thank you too. Very sorry to not talking English very well, but
No worries.
I tried.
Yeah, you're welcome. Anytime we get a chance to interview you, you're always welcome here, Bruno. And I understand it's not the easiest thing, so appreciate that and congratulations once again.
Thank you very much, guys.
Alrighty, that was a great battle that we saw here at the end of the race, and definitely a lot of fun to watch these guys. I mean, Bruno, absolutely the class of the field throughout the end of this race, and a hard-earned victory that we saw here tonight, Andrew.
Yeah, it was quite interesting. I actually expected that the fuel and the pitch strategy might kind of equalize a little bit, but it seemed like it was a 20-20-20 kind of race, which kind of makes things a little difficult in terms of trying to get an advantage on a different tire. So yeah, these guys did the best they could. There was definitely quite a bit of action in the mid pack, especially once the front of the pack started to even out a little bit. So yeah, this was definitely one for the books.
Definitely. Bummer to have it so soon and have it done already, but the first and only road course on the season. Had a lot of fun here at Donington Park tonight, and we saw like we said, a really great battle here. As we're going to try and bring up those are the practice results, bring up the actual race results here now. So we mentioned we talked to Bruno, Chris, and Eric so far on the podium, and Craig Forsyth, a really clean race. Obviously had a couple of his teammates Actually, Craig started the race on the, I believe, on the harder compound tires and held off a lot of really hard chargers, including Michael Carrillo and Dan Marrero there at the end. So a really great battle for Craig Forsyth to come home just off of the podium there with teammate Michael Carrillo in the top 5, Dan Marrero there in 6th. Matt Wagner made up a decent amount of ground, up 2 spots on the night, coming home in the 7th position, the last car on the lead lap. We saw Jari Brubacher with a great battle there, I believe, with Craig Forsyth at the moment, but some hard racing for Jari, even on the harder tires. And, I mean, a lot of fun that we saw from pretty much everybody throughout the field, but Jari had a really good battle and clean and hard-fought battle. Then we saw Jim Herrick there coming home 1 lap down, but still a great night for him. Saw a couple moments for him, obviously, but you know, good to at least bounce back. Still a pretty solid top 10. I know it's a little bit of a short field, but still good to see him there in the top 10. And Gary Lovern there 1 lap down as well in 10th. And we had a couple retirements for Eric Peterson early and Dan Marrera as they'll come home 11th and 12th as well. And obviously our own Andrew Wood not taking to the grid and just running that practice lap for us for the broadcast. So appreciate that, Andrew. And obviously we saw Joseph Desir also made another practice session, but not able to race tonight. So yeah, that was fun. Definitely a lot of fun to see that that lap at the beginning there, Andrew, and really appreciate all your efforts to put that together for us.
Yeah, I thought it would be a different kind of style, a different kind of green white checker TV experience to just put us on board a lap and actually see what the track looks like from a driver's perspective. But let me just mention that my 2 favorites from that race were definitely Bruno Miranda after that lap 1 incident. I don't know how he did not have damage like crazy after getting hit in the rear like that. For him to come back like that with no damage or maybe carrying damage that none of us really saw was definitely an astounding performance. But also, I want to shout out Dan Marrero there. He had that big spin on lap 1 and fell all the way to the back of the field because he was on the black tires and didn't really protect it so well. He managed to make his way up to almost battle for P4. So that does not come without perseverance, kind of picking yourself back up from that spin and then getting yourself on a strategy where you're running laps where you can actually get back up to the front again. And he got himself a P5 finish, and there's nothing to be ashamed about for there, especially after the first couple of races where he fell back a little bit. So good run for both Miranda and Marrera today in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, for Dan, like that's definitely something that's easy to kind of get in your head, and it's very easy for you know, especially for me. I know when I'm driving, it's easy for that kind of self-doubt to creep in when you make a big mistake like that, and you just kind of feel silly. And but he shook it off and was able to battle back. And I mean, you know, right there around his teammates, had a chance to have at least up to 4th place, but settling for 6th place tonight. But still, I mean, a great battle for Dan. Perseverance, the key word for there. And obviously, Chris Stouffer there for the 3rd time this season now. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride, but hopefully see him finally. He's been in position pretty much every race so far, obviously, with that string of 3 second-place finishes in a row. So hopefully, I think actually he's him and Eric Strauss now are the only repeat podium placings so far on the season. So have to wait and see when Chris can get that win, and if he keeps putting himself in position like that, should be coming pretty soon here. So. We'll be back, though, next week with more action in the Area 51 Dark Horse IndyCar Racing Series. We'll be at Michigan International Speedway on February 6th. We will take a week off for the week of Valentine's Day and come back in a week after that for Phoenix. So a nice 2-mile oval, and then we'll go to the shorter track for Phoenix. And should be a lot of fun here on Tuesday nights. We've got also more action on Thursdays and Sundays as well with the Xfinity car, stock car Super Speedway Series and the Truck Series Super Speedway Series as well on Sunday nights. So be sure to tune in there as well. I believe we're at iRacing Super Speedway this week for both Thursday and Sunday night. Actually, I believe Sunday night might have already happened at iRacing Super Speedway, but a lot of fun in the definitely a different different style of racing, but nonetheless a lot of action. More so sometimes than the IndyCar series. Obviously, there's strategy involved, but sometimes it's anyone's game as far as the super speedway style racing goes. But lots of fun, and we'll be back for all that action. And appreciate everybody who watches live and watches back. We know there's a lot of support for us here at Green White Checker TV, and appreciate all of that. Appreciate everybody here at Area 51 for letting myself, Boomer Logan, and Andrew Wood do what we do in the booth. And I think that's about it, Andrew. Any closing thoughts before we sign this one off?
Yeah, I'll just look forward to Michigan next week. This is one of those tracks that the lap count is just probably right for some sort of fuel save. So if you're tuning in next week, expect some sort of fuel save race, and we'll see how it goes. These drivers always want to save every ounce or teaspoon of fuel they can. So I'm very excited to come back next Tuesday and watch these guys do the best they can for a 2-mile oval win. It's going to be a wild one.
Yeah, absolutely. MIS is such a great track, and for pretty much any car that runs there, should be a lot of fun. We'll see. Guile Brooks should be back in the booth next week. Not sure, but definitely hope you're feeling better soon, buddy, and can't wait to have you back. But it's been a pleasure to fill your shoes for these last couple weeks. And if I'm back,
best wishes to Guile for sure.
If I'm back next week, looking forward to calling another one with you, Andrew. And if not, we'll have the return of the boss man. So. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Appreciate everybody, and hope you all have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.